What up, Gromies? Alright, check it out. Hey, yo, what up? The name is NerdGrows. I got the buttery turf flows, the way I make these herbs grow. This one's for all my tent homies and my earth hoes.
Yo.
Wait,
what are you doing, man?
What?
Start the podcast.
Alright. Hey, yo, what up, y'all? Welcome to episode 6 of the NerdGrows podcast. Can you believe we're at episode 6? We're crushing it, y'all. Anyways, thank you for listening. Yeah, right up top, I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who's been showing me love the past week. I definitely tried to up the quality of the show recently, and I think it's working out really well. So thank you for everyone who reached out, gave me pats on the back. I loved it. I really needed the encouragement. And also, thanks to everyone who bought a t-shirt. Having the like fake ads with the corresponding t-shirts, I thought was just a silly idea, and you guys seem to like it as well, so thank you. We're gonna keep that going. I got I got some funny ones for you today. So let's get into how my grow's going. It's been a pretty eventful week. Right now I have Rockbud Blue Slush on day 33, and I have Alebrije Purple Pea on day 27. Now this week I am combating, for the first time, a little bit of powdery mildew. Yeah, it's not going well. Towards the beginning of the week, I noticed it looked almost like dandruff or like salt or sugar on some of the leaves, and not in like a really good frosty trichome way. There was definitely something wrong. So I asked around, I asked a couple of my friends, and we came to the consensus of powdery mildew. So currently the only pest control that I own is Captain Jack's Super Soap, which on the bottle only says it works for pests and insects. However, when I went on the website, it says it also does kill powdery mildew. So I've sprayed it a couple times this week before bed, like close to like when the lights are shutting off, so it won't like burn through the leaves or anything. And it has been getting rid of it. However, now that I'm on day 4 of this, I am noticing that like when I wake up every morning and check on the plants, the same 2 leaves have more mildew on it. So I'm thinking it got into like, hopefully just that one bud site has mildew in it. And maybe if I just, top that branch, it'll get rid of it. So that's my next move. This morning I just sprayed just the 2 effective leaves a little bit and cleaned them off and everything. If those 2 leaves have, more powdery mildew on it in the morning, I'm gonna just top that branch and see what happens. But yeah, other than that, they're looking good. I'm still, as I probably explained last week, I did build a soil craft blend top dress for the first time. And while I'm waiting for that to kick in, the blue slush is having a bit of deficiency issues. So I've been watering with like light flower and light base newts from Fox Farm, just to kind of get it through until the top dress kicks in. And that seems to be going well. The deficiencies seem to be going away. The purple pea is still going strong. She's tiny, but very fierce. But yeah, a lot of growing pains with this grow so far. Like my first grow definitely went a lot more smoothly than this one. That said, I mean, the powdery mildew was 100% my fault. I never lowered my oscillating fan back down after harvest. So the fan was still blowing as if the plants were still 3 feet tall, so I had to move that down. I also had some in between the leaves, so I gotta get better about leaf tucking and spreading the plant out. So it was a good learning experience. Like I had said in previous episodes, my main goal of this grow was to learn LST. From what I've shown people and from how my plants look now, I've successfully LST'd 2 plants with 2 different methods. I did one with clips and one with tie down. Definitely prefer the clips because then you don't have to move the base of the plant as much. Like you can basically let the plant grow straight up like you would if you weren't LSTing at all, and then you can kind of like bend out the branches as they grow, as opposed to having to tip the whole plant over with tie downs. But we'll see how they come out towards the end. The plant I use the tie downs with definitely spread out a lot more than with the clips, but like how open you need it to be. Just gotta make sure all the bud slates are getting light, right? And they have their own little breathing room, little pocket and everything. Doesn't gotta look like a spider's crawling out of your tent. But yeah, that's what's going on in my grow this week. I am, let me tell you, ripping through the Walter White that I grew in my first harvest. It's just so delicious. It's like lemony diesel kind of vibes. And yeah, it just smells awesome, tastes awesome. Double grape got weird. So my double grape, when I was curing it, it was very, very gassy for a long time. And now that it is like, I think we're a little over a month into curing right now, and most of the gas went away. I'd say like 80% of it. It still has a little hint of it, but now it mostly just smells like tea leaves, like in a good way, like very like herbally kind of floral. It's nice. It's nice. It's really mellow. I like the effects. It gives me at least a very heady high without like potential for anxiety or paranoia or any of that. All right, and before we move on to our topic for the week, I just wanted to say that I launched the website, so you can go to nerdgrows.com and you can get all the episodes, links to all the shirts, just anything else that I have going on. Also, I added a link in bio to my Instagram. You can find me at instagram.com/nerdgrows, where you can get either the podcast or the t-shirts or anything else that I have going on currently. All right, so our topic for this week is going to be very, very beginner, rudimentary. I want it to be like a good starting point for someone who hasn't grown yet. And that is, we're just going to go over the different pieces of growing, like the different variables, the different parts, everything you have to kind of look out for when you're first growing. But before that, we got to read an ad. Are you tired of constantly juggling between watering your garden and ensuring your pets stay well hydrated? Well, say goodbye to the garden hamster dilemma with our revolutionary new gardening solution. The Sip Suckler's drip system is no average grow box, as you can now forget the hassle of having two separate watering routines. Now, your garden bed and your beloved furball can share the same aquatic bliss. Your plants get their hydration fix through our cutting-edge drip system, while Fluffy enjoys the convenience of their own water bottle. And don't worry about your pets getting confused. We've conducted extensive research to ensure that they understand the difference between their water bottle and the plant's watering system. Our focus groups gave it 2 paws up. Say goodbye to the days of waterlogged gardens and dehydrated hamsters. With the Sip Suckler's drip system, you'll be the envy of both the gardening and pet owner communities. Your neighbors will marvel at your thriving garden and synchronized sipping sessions happening underneath. Get your Sip Suckler's drip system today, because a hydrated garden is a happy garden, and a hydrated hamster is a hamster in harmony. Sip, suck, and drip your way to gardening greatness. To get started, head over to nerdgrows.com/SSDS. That is nerdgrows.com/SSDS. All right, let's get back into it. All right, so like I said, I wanted today's topic to be about the different factors that go into growing cannabis. The thing about growing cannabis is that there are a lot of moving parts to it, just like with any gardening. You want to make sure that you have this kind of equilibrium at all times, and that'll ensure that your plants grow healthy and you'll get bigger yields, and then you don't have to worry about other issues that pop up. It's really all about holding down that equilibrium to mitigate any potential issues. I mean, I'm sure every grow has some issues because every single plant is different and it's impossible to, really anticipate everything. That's really the goal, is issue mitigation through consistency and persistence. So with that said, what's probably the most important factor is your growing environment. It's something that we kind of take for granted as humans because we have like ACs in our house and, AC in our car. Everything has heat or cooling and it's all automatic. But with plants, you want to have it dialed in a lot more because your plants can't just throw a hoodie on when it's a little chilly or take the hoodie off when it gets too hot. So the main factors that go into controlling your environment are the airflow, air movement, humidity, temperature, and light. Now, if you're growing outdoors, a lot of these variables are taken care of for you, as they have, in gardening for the past however many thousands of years. because your light and heat source is your sun. Obviously, your airflow and your air movement is handled by the wind, and the humidity is handled by whatever precipitation you have going on. But if you're growing indoors, you have to handle all of that yourself. It's also a reason why a lot of people prefer growing indoors, because you do get to really dial it in as much as you want. As most of you know, I'm using the AC Infinity tent system, which has components for each of these variables, but there are a lot of different tent growing systems out there. You can also just build your own grow setup out of, different components. You need all of the components, but how you set them is going to be based on your own environment. So, like, for example, right now, it's winter where I live. It's super, super dry in my house because of my heating system. So I have humidifiers going nonstop, essentially, which also could have been, part of the culprit of the powdery mildew we were discussing previously. But on the other hand, if you live in a very humid environment, you may need a dehumidifier, or your humidifier is not going to run as much. But as far as the components go for an indoor grow, you're going to want a humidifier or a dehumidifier or both, depending on your climate and what the inside of your house is like. You're going to need your lighting system. Now, I don't know the exact measurements off the top of my head, or like what the rule of thumb is off the top of my head, but you can't just stick a light in an area and grow plants. You can, it may not be that great, but there is a certain ratio of light wattage to grow space that needs to be in check in order for the plants to get the amount of light that they need. So that's definitely something to research before you start growing, is the size of your space, the amount of plants you intend to grow, and then those two factors will allow you to calculate the size and wattage of lighting that you need. So next is airflow. A lot of us growing indoors grow in tents, and you don't want the air inside the tent to become too stagnant. So you want either an inline fan or an exhaust fan, or both, depending on what your needs and what your grow style is. I'm currently I run one exhaust fan out the top of the tent. And the reason why I run exhaust and not inline is because of the smell during flower. Is I want any air inside the tent to run through the carbon filter before it goes into the rest of my house. And it works pretty well. I do have a second fan that I'm thinking of setting up as inline. I think that could be cool, putting it under the canopy, but I haven't got there yet. And then the next is air movement. You don't want air to just be getting sucked out of your tent or pushed into your tent. You also want the air inside of your tent to be moving, which is where an oscillating fan comes in. That's the typical way to achieve this. Now, growing in a tent, they have clip-on fans that'll clip onto the corners of your tent poles. Or if you're just growing in a grow room, you can use a stand-up oscillating fan. From what I've heard, the rule of thumb is you always want the plants to always just have, you don't want them to be like fully swaying in the breeze, but you want them to have like a little light wiggle to them at all times. And the reason for that is, if the plant is moving, it makes it more difficult for pests and mold and fungus and all the bad stuff to habitate on your leaves and in your plants. And the last thing, which I think is something a lot of people struggle with, is temperature. Now, depending on the types of light you're using, the lights are going to give off a certain amount of heat. And then also, a small tent is going to be easier to heat than a large grow room. So you're going to have to set up, your heating and cooling adequately for whatever your space is like. And on top of the lights giving off heat, obviously you're going to have dark periods where the lights aren't on, unless you're running autos on 24/0. And obviously your tent's going to cool off when the lights are off. So you need to be able to account for that drop in temperature. Now, a lot of growers just put space heaters either directly in their tent or in the room that their tent is in, or just directly in their grow room. Some people build a lung room, which is a tiny room around your tents, because it's easier to control that tiny room's temperature as opposed to, say, your whole basement or your whole attic. Now, me personally, running a space heater in my basement nonstop is just a horrifying horrifying concept. I'm always worried about fires or just anything like that. So what I do, since I'm growing autoflowers, I'm just running them on 22.2, and then my house is set to, I think, like low 70s now when we have the heat on. So during the 2 hours of dark, the tent doesn't have enough time to get to like a super like critically low temperature. It just drops a few degrees, then the lights turn back on and heat it back up. And it seems to be going well so far. I started growing this summer, so this is a new issue that I didn't have to worry about during my first grow because it was warm outside. So those are the main factors that go into harnessing the environment around your plants that'll give them the optimal climate for growth. And just to go over that again, it's humidity, temperature, lighting, air movement, and air circulation. I count them differently because they are technically two different things, because one is getting rid of old air and pulling in new air, and then one is actually the direction of air movement within inside your grow space. And with most grow setups, they are handled by two different parts, either by a fan system or an oscillating fan, or it's just different, y'all. Nah. But yeah, like the difference between like an oscillating fan and ductwork, essentially. All right, so when it comes to the plant itself, you're going to need a bunch more things. Obviously, once you have your grow room set up and you have it to the point where you have your climate regulated, then comes the fun part of actually growing the plants themselves. So you're going to need something to put the soil in, or this is assuming like either like a soil or a cocoa grow. I'm not going to get into hydroponics or aeroponics or any of that crazy stuff. Yeah, you're going to need something to put your medium into, whether that's fabric pots, plastic, ceramic pots, grow boxes, city pickers. You can really grow you can really grow in any container if you really put your mind to it. We've all seen those like crazy bonsai competitions, people growing out of a Pringles can. Like, hey, look, I cut the head off of a Funko Pop, grew an eighth off of it. Actually, that'd be pretty great. But yeah, something to put the soil in, and then you need your soil. There's an infinite amount of different soils out there. Just do your research. I currently use Fox Farm. I got my first bag of Build a Soil, but I haven't popped a new seed yet. And then after that, you need your plant food. So look into either organic, top dresses or synthetic newts. There's every combination you can think of ways to feed plants. It's out there. But most people either put liquid newts in their water and then water their plants to recharge the soil, or top dress or amend the soil as the grow goes on. And that's just going to come down to your own personal preference on the topic. A few things that are really helpful that to have around that a lot of people don't talk about is, or at least when you read a grow guide, they don't necessarily tell you that you need them, is a chemical sprayer. You can pick them up for like $8 at Walmart. And it's a good way to slowly and evenly water your plants as opposed to using like a regular watering can that just kind of glugs all the water all over the plant. I've also seen people, poke holes in the bottom of a solo cup and then water the solo cup, and then that gives it like a rain effect over the soil. But a chemical sprayer is a really good way to just evenly coat the soil over and over until it's fed. Also, a pair of tweezers is really helpful. So you can pick at anything that needs to be picked at. Most common use is if a seedling pops up and hasn't stripped its shell, or it can't strip its shell, you can pull the shell off of it. You're also going to want a method of pHing your water. You can pick up liquid acids and liquid bases, usually called pH up and pH down, and then get a pH reader. Make sure that you use the testing kit that comes with it to make sure that your pH meter is synced up correctly. I also think having just a regular spray bottle on hand, preferably one that gives like a really fine mist to it, like one you see on like window cleaner, how it just has that really nice fine spray. Because I think that's good for during seedling stage. Because even the chemical sprayer can get a little powerful at times. I mean, it is pressurized, even though it's just spraying out a little bit at a time. And while they're not needed for your first grow, you could pick up some garden ties or LST clips if you plan on trying that on your first go around. You should also get some sort of jug for pHing your water and adding in anything you want to add into it. I just use like a regular like Kool-Aid jug that you would get at the grocery store. And then I also got like a separate, I have like a plastic slotted spoon that I use to mix everything. And finally, to wrap it up, you need some sort of pest prevention techniques. So like I said, I use Captain Jack's Super Soap, but also I just got some neem oil in the mail. I haven't tried it or used it at all. I kind of bought it after I freaked out about the powdery mildew, but I got that on hand. But honestly, the number one thing that helps me is just putting a couple fly strips in the tent, because I find that a lot of soils, will give off some gnats or white flies or fruit flies. Making sure that those all go away as soon as they start to come out. Yeah, funny thing, I usually use the old school ones. I think they're disgusting, but like the ones that come in like the little firecracker tube and then you pull the ribbon out of the bottom. I can't stand those because they like get stuck to everything. They're impossible to like keep unraveled. But I use those, but then I saw this one, I can't remember who makes it, like Clorox or one of those companies, and it was supposed to be like this super duper one. And I was like, oh, this must be awesome. It had like white caps on it and it was all silvery. So I buy a couple of them and I open them up thinking it's going to be like this high tech thing, which probably my just gadget head ass thinking that. But it was literally two like Dixie cups that you would rinse your mouth with on a paper towel tube with like one roll of like sticky aluminum foil around it. It was kind of a boner kill when I got home, but honestly, I've been buying them ever since because I like them. They're way less messy than like the old school fly strips where you pull them out of the tube. It's literally just like a sticky paper towel tube with caps on it so that it doesn't bump in and stick to the sides of your tent and stuff. But yeah, they're great. I mean, they're more expensive because I think you can get like like 8 tube fly strips for like $3, and I think these cost like $3 each. I never thought I'd hit the point in my life where I was like discussing the merits of different brands of fly strips, but here I am. I like them. Fuck it, I like them. Nah. Alright, let's get into one more ad read, and then I'm going to tell you about what I've been into this week. Are you ready for the gardening revolution that is out of this world? Are you tired of the mundane watering systems that rely only on gravity? Well, brace yourselves for a quantum leap in horticultural technology. Say hello to Radipots, where we've harnessed the power of the atom to give your plants the nuclear hydration they never knew they needed. Gone are the days of relying on the whims of Mother Nature. With Radipots, your garden will be pampered with the same nuclear technology that powers space missions and your favorite sci-fi blockbusters. It's like giving your petunias a ticket to the cosmos, all without leaving your backyard. But wait, there's more. Radipots come with exclusive gamma grow technology, where residual gamma rays emitted during watering act as a natural fertilizer. Your plants will grow faster than you can say, atomic bloom. Concerned about safety? Fear not. Radipots are equipped with state-of-the-art radiation shielding, so you can enjoy a lush, vibrant garden without growing an extra set of leaves yourself. And the best part, you don't need a degree in nuclear physics to operate Radipots. It's as simple as pushing a button. Get your Radipots today and transform your garden into a nuclear oasis. When it comes to watering, why settle for ordinary when you can go nuclear? Head over to nerdgrows.com/Radipots to get started. That's nerdgrows.com/RADIPOTS. Alright, let's get back in. Alright, I didn't have to think about what I was going to talk about for this part this week, because I started watching Money Heist this week, and yeah, I'm completely obsessed. I love it. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a Spanish show. There is a Korean remake that's out right now. What most people have seen is the Spanish version, and it's on Netflix. I want to say it aired outside of Netflix, and then Netflix acquired it and made more seasons. But there's 5 seasons total. I'm in the middle of season 4 right now. Like I watched 4 seasons of the show this week. I've just like had it on like while I was working or doing chores around the house kind of thing. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's about a group of criminals that do like really, really, really high stakes heists, like robbing federal banks and stuff like that. And usually like one heist takes a couple seasons. I want to say the whole series just has 2 heists in it, basically. But the interesting thing about the show is that the heists are coordinated by a guy called the Professor, and he's not the main character of the show. The main character of the show is one of the thieves, but he's the head of the whole operation, and he's kind of like it's like a combination of like autism and being a psychopath or sociopath kind of thing. He has that like computer brain. Everything has to be 100% logical all the time kind of thing. But that's why he can pull off heists this big, is because he has that eye for detail. But it also creates this like really awkward dynamic of the fact that they have to do all this weird stuff. Cause like he knows all the twists and turns in his own plan, but he can't let everyone know all the time. So sometimes he'll be like, oh, he'll tell someone like run towards the cops, and they'll be like, what, you're crazy? And he's like, no, trust me, just do it, and then like it'll work out kind of thing. You know what it kind of reminds me of is, if you've seen Breaking Bad, do you remember the episode where they stop the train and then they drain all the chemicals out the bottom while pouring water in the top? And how that episode, even though that was like an over the top, insane, like cartoonish plan, it was still like executed with like the normal Breaking Bad gritty drama. That's kind of like what every episode of Money Heist feels like. It's kind of like, it's just always just some over the top crazy hijinks, but the show itself is played out like a gritty crime drama, essentially. And all the different thieves have like wildly different personalities, which makes it really interesting to see them. You know, when they're in a heist, they're trapped in a building for a couple of days. So you have to see them all kind of cloistered together along with all the hostages and everything. I mean, there is action in the show, there is violence in the show, but it really is like a character drama. It just happens to take place during bank heists. But yeah, I would put it up there with like similar like anti-hero shows like Breaking Bad or Sopranos. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's as legendary as those 2 shows, but I would put them in the same niche, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm having a great time watching it. Obviously, I'm trying, you know, if you haven't seen it, I'm trying not to spoil it. Yeah, it's been awesome so far. I just like, I'm glued to it, but I'm also kind of like a hyper obsessive person. Yeah, I should be finishing it in a couple of days. If you have seen it, hit me up on like Instagram, or if we talk on Discord, let me know what you think. I really don't know a lot of other people who have watched this, so I need someone to chat about it with. And I don't want to go on Reddit until after I've watched the whole show to avoid any like ending spoilers. But yeah, I'm just powering through it, binging, as is the nerd's way. Nah. And then one more thing I wanted to talk about before we get going is that Spotify Wrapped came out this week. I know everyone's been posting theirs. I didn't really post mine anywhere, but I did want to talk about it a little bit. So this year I listened to 3,879 different songs, which is kind of low for me. I had a bunch of months this year where I was obsessed with just one band, and I just listened to them over and over. Where usually I try to listen to as many bands that I've never heard before as possible. So my top 5 songs this year, the first one was Nightcrawler by Czarface featuring Method Man. If you don't know Czarface, it's a 7L and Esoteric, who you may know from like Army of the Pharaohs. They had their own group. They kind of came from that whole like battle rapper, like Jedi Mind Tricks, like that whole area of underground hip hop. And then producing for them is Inspect the Deck from Wu-Tang. And then this song has Method Man. Method Man's verse on this is just so good. It's funny. It's like everything you want from a Method Man verse. It's just like funny, and it's also like hard. I don't know. You know what I mean? If you like Wu-Tang, you know what I mean. You know what a good Method Man verse sounds like. My second top song this year was Hey Big Man by 100 Gex. Now, if you haven't heard of 100 Gex, their second album just came out this year, and it's a duo. It's Dylan Brady and Laura Less. It's really hard to describe what their music sounds like. It's kind of like electronic pop music if that was like punk rock. So it's almost like a bastardization of like what pop music sounds like. So it has a lot of like punk rock elements. They have like some songs that have ska elements. It's hard to explain. They like take the concepts of pop music that makes pop music really catchy and accessible, and they kind of flip them on their heads and go crazy with them. And that's part of what I really like about them. It's kind of like the same way that punk rock was kind of like a middle finger to like mainstream rock music. This kind of feels like that, but for the modern age of music where everything is more electronic oriented or hip hop oriented. Because rock music, I mean, obviously people are still making rock music, but it's really, rock music's not really the forefront of the music industry like it was 40 years ago, you know? That song just, it just like melts your face off the whole time. It's just super hard and it has really funny, sarcastic lyrics. And it's just I don't know, it gets you pumped while having fun and kind of laughing a little bit. And I like that. It's a good like get yourself going song, especially if you're feeling kind of silly. Now the third song was another Czarface song. It's called Phantoms, and it's featuring MF Doom and Open Mike Eagle. It's kind of the song kind of has like a spooky vibe to it. I mean, it's called Phantoms, and it's kind of, you know, so the whole song kind of has this kind of ghost vibe to it. And then you have Czarface, MF Doom, and Open Mike Eagle, who are like openly very like nerdy, kind of cartoonish rappers. So you just get this like really crazy and funny, like there's a lot of really good like jokes in the lyrics, but it's also has that kind of like creepy ghosty vibe to it. And yeah, it's just a great track. It's really fun to listen to. And then the fourth song in my top songs was Stupid Horse by 100 Gex. Like I said, I listened to a lot of Czarface and a lot of 100 Gex this year. Those are definitely my top two groups, along with like, you know, like staples like MF Doom. But yeah, Stupid Horse kind of starts off like a ska song, and then during the chorus, it kind of like evens out into like this very like heavy but chill chorus that's very catchy, really fast, kind of anxiety producing, like ska up picking, and then it just like smooths back out and then goes back into it and then smooths back out. And what the song's about, getting into a fight with a horse after they lost, when, you know, after you bet on them at the horse track. So very silly lyrics, but really fun song to listen to, and it has a lot of cool sounds in it, and like the whole way the song is organized to kind of flip through different vibes and different feelings as it goes through. All right, so my last one, my fifth song of the year, was Coming Through by Charlie Tuna. Now this song is just a classic. If you don't know who Charlie Tuna is, you probably know him as the guy with the really deep voice in Jurassic 5. You know, it's the verbal hormone monster. And yeah, it kind of sucks. Like he even says it in multiple songs that it kind of sucks that he kind of got typecasted as the deep voice guy in Jurassic 5, because he's a super talented artist. From everything I've seen, he's also a painter. From everything I've seen, people say he's just a super nice guy and really good hip hop. So Coming Through is probably his most famous song as a solo artist. And it's so good and so catchy. And I went through like a couple weeks this year where I just could not get that song out of my head, and I just listened to it on repeat, which is probably why it's in my fifth slot for my favorite song. But yeah, my top 5 songs were only 3 artists. I can't wait to see what this year's is like, because I've been on a month-long Coheed and Cambria binge. That grabs me for at least a month a year. I'll just have a Coheed and Cambria month every year when I get in the mood for it. But alright, I've talked your ears off enough. Hit me up if you have any questions about what we talked about today. If you're setting up your first grow, let me know. I'd love to like help you tweak it and optimize it. That's kind of what I'm good at, tweaking and optimizing things. Hopefully next week I'll report that there's no more powdery mildew on my plants, and watch Money Heist if you haven't watched it, because it's a banger. All right, until next week, peace, y'all.